Good evening, everyone. Today, this is a small discussion on the top five industry oblique roles where armed forces officers generally are acceptable. They get good, stable, well-paying jobs, and they are able to create a good second career for themselves. The basic premise is that to succeed in your professional life, you should play on your strengths. Uh, you as an armed forces officer cannot just write off what you have done in last 10, 14, 20, 30 years of your professional career. You may not realize it, but your training, your the way you work, you do things, there is a certain method to it, and that method is something which is developed over a period of time by different experiences, your way of working, your training, your skills. So those skills are developed. Now, when you're looking to transit, or if you're already transiting and now you want to progress and grow your career outside, then instead of looking for external validation ki corporate हमें ये दे, corporate हमें वो करे, no, that's not required. What you need to focus now is that what are my strengths, what do I bring to the table, what it is that I can offer to the next employer in terms of what problems I solve for them, and then you get recognized and you get paid both in terms of money and the positions offered. So that with that as a premise, we'll be moving on today's discussion. So broadly speaking, as you can see on the screen, there are five of these industries oblique roles where armed forces officers have are uniquely placed and they have very strong strengths. First is security, and security, you should not be surprised if I say that as of today, not just in India, world over, any kind of a civilian security setup is dominated by ex-armed forces professionals. Veterans kind of, rule the roost here. And cybersecurity of late, with the growth in more and more businesses which are dependent on technology. In fact, now our life is dependent on technology. So cybersecurity is also, in addition, a field where there are the dominance is now coming to Fauji's. And for cybersecurity, I would like to tell you one thing here. A lot of people have this misconception that cybersecurity is for people who have IT related experiences or education or things like that. No, security is a mindset. Security is something which you as a professional or you as an individual develop over a period of time based on the kind of work you do. And cybersecurity is part of the overall security framework of any kind of a business enterprise, any kind of a corporate. Therefore, cybersecurity is not something which is superimposed on security. It is a subset of overall security framework. Therefore, armed forces officers are very uniquely placed to even undertake these roles. And you will be surprised there are a lot of officers in cybersecurity today who are not from the technical background, not even from the technical background of Indian Armed Forces. They come from intelligence corps, they come from infantry, they come from the executive arm of Navy, they come from administration branch of Air Force. So security, cyber security, then third is, and this third one is actually something which again is very unique, and armed forces officers generally are not very aware of this. That is risk and business continuity programs or business continuity work. Now, what is risk here? Risk is the way we understand risk in the sense that when you're defending your nation as a uniformed officer, your task is not just managing the borders. That's one part of it. Your task is also to overall assess the threat which is there present in form of the enemies, what kind of disruptions can occur in times to come, what kind of other challenges can happen to the external and internal security. Similarly, in the risk and the BCP domain, armed forces officers assess the threat perception which can create problems for the business continuity. For, I mean, they are the ones who are advising businesses as to what can be the challenges basis which you will be surprised and you will not, you can suddenly get obliterated from the market. Could be because of duplicate products, could be because of threat from your competition, also could be because of global phenomenon which are happening. Let's say, for example, right now there is something which is happening between India and Canada. Now, while serving, you may feel that there is no impact of this, could be. But let's say there is an MNC which is functioning across both the places, and there have some commercial ties and things happening. There, a risk and a BCP professional would be advising this MNC as to how they can ensure that their businesses have least amount of disruption. Now, this risk and BCP again is a field which earlier had people who are not from the armed forces, but of late, armed forces professionals, especially officers who are keen and who are who have this knack of being able to consult, get into deep research, analyze data. They are providing consulting to the top organizations and getting very well paid for this. नेक्स्ट इज दी फैसिलिटीज, प्रॉपर्टी मैनेजमेंट और वर्कप्लेस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. इसको पुराने जमाने में एडमिन कहते थे, अब ये एडमिन नहीं है, इट इज मच बियॉन्ड दैट. एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट multi-million square feet of space. We are talking about thousands of people working in these offices, hundreds of cars moving out in and transportation, buses. And so the amount of work involved now in these kind of roles is mind-boggling. So that's another area where armed forces officers have very unique strengths, and they have been doing this work day in and day out. And that's another industry or big job role where usually they get absorbed very easily. And then finally, I would say startups. आप किसी भी startup को दीजिए, देखिए उनके साथ दो problems हैं. पहला, they do not get the kind of they are basically starved for talent. And not just the top 10, 20 odd startups. उसके अलावा भी there are a lot of startups which are funded, and they're looking for people who can run their operations. They're looking for people who can help them with their supply chain. They're looking for people who can help them with their HR. So different business functions, they're looking for them, and armed forces officers bring in a lot of value to these startups, because armed forces officers are not just there कि जहाँ already exist कर रहे हैं वहीं जाकर के काम कर सकते हैं. Armed forces officers can very easily also help these startups in, I would say, kind of shaping up their structures, providing them the required SOPs, providing them the required to-do list, etc. And they are very well sought after. You should not be surprised that a lot of these startups, and even the top names in these startups also, say the Uber and Ola and Blinkit and all these, the very well-known ones, a lot of their key functionaries are ex-armed forces officers. So these are the 5 industries and roles where you can very easily fit in and develop a very robust second career. I'll move on. And now let's understand the size and scale of these options, these industries, these roles. So, as of today, Indian economy is at a $3.5 trillion. That's the reported economy. और हमारे यहाँ अगर हम parallel economy को भी include करते हैं साथ में, so that's additional $1.5 trillion. So total $5 trillion economy इंडिया की already हो चुकी है. और इसका मतलब ये जो 5 हमने roles या industries की बात करी, they are now growing big time in size and scale, and they offer opportunities which are, मतलब security is not just कि you are having a guarding company. आज security companies are talking about companies like G4S, company like Securitas, company like Peregrine. They are very soon in next 10 odd years going to be $1 billion turnover company. 7-8 हजार करोड़ का व्यापार वो लोग टर्नओवर वो लोग कर रहे होंगे. इसका मतलब ये जितनी भी इंडस्ट्रीज और रोल्स की मैंने आपसे बात करी, ये 5 इंडस्ट्रीज और रोल्स स्टैंड अलोन, दैट मीन्स वेदर यू फाइंड जॉब्स देयर एज विद अ वेंडर जो दूसरों को सप्लाई करता है, या विद द प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर. प्रिंसिपल एम्प्लॉयर और वेंडर का फर्क मैं आपको थोड़ा सा बता देता हूँ. Principal employer is, say, if you are serving with the armed forces, you are the principal. That's the principal employer. आप वहाँ अपने देश की रक्षा कर रहे हैं जो आपको जिसके लिए कमीशन मिला है और जो आपका ओहदा है. while you are serving, the UN demands certain people to be sent. And when you go to a UN mission, you become a vendor to UN. So you have a standing army. Indian Army gets requisition from UN. They send some of their best people to go and for a limited period fulfill the UN charter, and that is where you become a vendor to the UN. Similarly, when you come out and you're looking for jobs in these industries or in these roles, you will be able to find jobs in both kind of things. So you can be a facility manager or someone in facilities for a big MNC and help them manage their vendors, or you can also be on the vendor side, wherein let's say you're working with a Vatica Enviro or a CBRE, and those again are very big companies. A CBRE is a $28 billion MNC. It's an international behemoth, and it services millions of square feet of facilities across the world. So you could be working there also. Both the places, the size of the economy in India is growing. Both the places, you get a lot of opportunities to grow your career, and the complexity of work is growing, because of which they are looking for officers to handle their jobs. And businesses will continue to need more and more of the professionals from the armed forces, and therefore there is a very well growing demand for armed forces officers, both in terms of growing scale, both in terms of growing complexity. And after armed forces as of today is the largest employer. So हम क्या है उस scale से आते हैं. We know how to handle scale, we know how to handle volumes, and now with growing economy, the industry also needs people who can handle and manage these jobs for them. So the economy is growing, and so are these businesses, and they need people from the armed forces. If I say about future, very bright future in all these five roles of big industries. They are all essential services for any kind of a business. You can't survive without asset protection. You can't survive without a good, robust facility management. You can't survive without a good cyber security plan. You can't survive without a proper business continuity plan, which includes risk, threats, etc. And you can't move ahead without these services to assist you and carry on with the role of doing your own core business. So these are essential support functions, and they need armed forces officers to handle them. So these provide a lot of stability because they are vital support functions, and a lot of businesses in these industries also are ramping up work. So बड़ी security companies are here, a lot of technologies coming into that, and salaries की अगर हम बात करते हैं, so 10-year experience nowadays is averaging around 35 odd lakhs in any of these work profiles. 20-year experience, 10 years would be more applicable to the short service commissioned officers. 20 years experience with right kind of skills and certifications, you should be able to get anything from 42 to 52, 55 odd lakhs, and 30 years experience. And so 20 years would be PMR and superannuation. 30 years would be people who have already spent around 10, 15 years. So 10-20 साल फौज का experience and 10 से 15 साल experience in the industry. That should fetch you around 75 to 90 lakh rupees on a per annum basis. Growth, stability, and salary will also depend on the role and the type of company you're working in. And that will depend on the kind of preparation you do and the skills you acquire prior to transitioning, the skills you acquire while you're transitioned and you're in the job, and the network you develop for getting those kind of opportunities, the network you develop for getting those kind of options or job offers. I'll briefly touch upon broad of these five roles जिनमें कि ये बड़ी companies कौन सी हैं. These are very indicative, and you would find that this is a very small list. So security companies की अगर हम बात करते हैं, there are top 5 companies: G4S, Tops, Securitas, Peregrine, and Firewall. They're all companies which are doing businesses in excess of 500 crores as revenue. इसके अलावा जितने भी top 500 businesses हैं, they all need security professionals. For example, GMR, which is a very major infrastructure company, airports and ports and other things, they have their own security arm by the name of Raksha Security. All the top functionaries are for these. All banks, Yes Bank, and a lot of new banks coming up, the small depository banks, etc., they all need security professionals. Most of them are armed forces officers. So these are, this is a huge opportunity. And let's say, G4S, it maintains the asset protection for approximately 200 odd Fortune 500 MNCs. And there they have posted all these key account managers are armed forces officers. Moving on, cybersecurity में majorly अगर the data which I have collected and people we know who are there from Forge, you'll find a lot of them are in Amazon, a lot of them in Flipkart, IBM, Ernst and Young, Deloitte. But इसके अलावा भी Quest International, all other say all the e-commerce based companies, they are very, I mean, cybersecurity is a scarce resource for them, and they are in huge demand. And when Fauji's acquire skills for cybersecurity, irrespective of their Fauji background, they are able to match up their mental makeup and their thought process of being essentially a person who can defend and who can also make sure that any kind of cyber attack or any kind of a cyber threat is even preempted. And if they acquire the skills required to understand the basics, they are very easily absorbed as cybersecurity professionals. प्रॉपर्टी मैनेजमेंट या फैसिलिटी मैनेजमेंट या वर्क प्लेस इंफ्रा या जो पुराने टाइम से एडमिन जिसको बोलते थे, इनको अगर लिया जाए, so these are the 5 top companies which again hire a lot of armed forces officers: CBRE, Cushman Wakefield, ISS, Knight Frank, Abante and Vatica Enviro. एंड इसके अलावा जितनी भी फॉर्च्यून 500 कंपनीज के आप फैसिलिटी मैनेजर्स या प्रॉपर्टी मैनेजर्स या वर्क प्लेस इंफ्रा मैनेजर्स को देखेंगे, लिंक्डइन सर्च करेंगे, यू विल फाइंड 70% ऑफ देम आर आर्म्ड फोर्सेस ऑफिसर्स. कोई कैप्टन, कोई मेजर, कोई कमांडर, कोई ग्रुप कैप्टन, कोई विंग कमांडर. एंड दैट्स डेटा सपोर्ट्स दैट all Fortune 500 companies, they are looking for people besides the vendors themselves. The top 5 are the vendors in this space. Then risk, business continuity consulting. Again, Forges, PricewaterhouseCooper, Pinkerton, Grant Thornton, Global Thornton, गलती से लिखा गया. It's Grant Thornton, Iris Consulting, Midcat, Netrika Consulting, Deloitte. They all employ Accenture. They all employ Forges for providing consulting on risk, business continuity, threat perceptions, and they're all consulting roles, very, very cerebrally intensive, very well paying, and provide a very handsome growth career. And again, no need to be from any kind of जो बहुत सारे आर्म फोर्सेस ऑफिसर्स को लगता है कि हम तो इन्फेंट्री वाले हैं, हम तो आर्मर्ड वाले हैं. All these companies, if I say Pinkerton, ex India MD is a SF officer. Midcat CEO is a executive officer from the Navy. The founder is again, I mean, I know 3-4 of them. Commander Pawan Desai is presently CEO of Midcat. He's an executive officer from the Navy. Then there's a Maratha Light Infantry officer, Major Ranjit Soni. Then Midcat was founded by an armored officer, Colonel Samendra Kumar. So these companies, they're not, I mean, risk and BCP is not just limited to any kind of a technical arm. It needs a lot of hard work. You need to be able to crunch a lot of data, read a lot, but it is not limited to any kind of a technical background. What it needs is being able to think through and being able to, if I would say, think like a senior armed forces officer. A lot of startups like Blinkit, Head HR, Fauji, Colonel Tarun Vora, Urban Company, VP Workplace Infrastructure, Fauji, Gaurav Bajeta. And again, none of them from technical arms. Ola, Head HR, Fauji. LiveSpace, Operations Head, Fauji. Swiggy, Zomato, Fauji. A lot of other well-funded businesses, they are hiring officers from. There was recently I had gone to a seminar by for Fauji's there. A trucking company, which is again a funded company, they have hired a Fauji to help them plan their software as to how truckers can be. It's a software-based trucking company. It's not a traditional logistic company. They have hired a couple of Faujis from the Army Service Corps to help them design their software in a way that truckers are able to move with minimum kind of disruptions. So all these companies, they are looking for people from Forge, and they're looking for officers who can help them grow their businesses. And when you help them grow their businesses, you can be rest assured that they're going to give you good positions, and your the money is going to be good. Now, how do you go about it? Actually, for these five opportunities which I just discussed with you, you don't even need to do any expensive MBA. You don't need to go to a Ivy League business school. You don't need to spend a lot of money on your GMAT. You don't need to do 1 year, 2 year courses, etc., etc. You need to get ready by industry specific skills. Something, say, gold standard for physical security professional is CPP. For cybersecurity professional is CISM. I'm just giving those things. So, and you don't need to start at junior positions here कि हमें तो काम नहीं आता है तो हमें पता नहीं कहाँ से start करेंगे. You will be able to get matching positions, and you need to be well networked to be able to get into these, to get good jobs. That's an important aspect of being able to get into these job roles or some of the good companies there. वो तो आपको करना पड़ेगा, and then you can hit the ground running. So if I say, I'll close the presentation. So if I have to, kind of conclude, I'll say that, if you focus on your core strengths as Fauji, what is your core strength? Your core strength is that you have been doing these things for last 10, 20, 30 years, depending on at what age and service you're coming out. And it is not the job. काम छोटा या बड़ा नहीं होता है, स्केल छोटा या बड़ा होता है. आपके घर में जो इंटीरियर करता है वो भी ठेकेदार है, और L&T जो काम करती है, लार्सन एंड टूब्रो, वो भी ठेकेदार है. So technically both are ठेकेदार, but L&T is a huge, massive company, and जो आपके यहाँ ठेकेदार काम करने आता है उसे आपके अलावा शायद बहुत कम लोग जानते होंगे. So it is not कि आपको ये लगता है कि सिक्योरिटी का काम कर रहे हैं तो गार्डिंग होगा, नहीं. किस स्केल पर आप काम कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल G4S का जो गूगल का अकाउंट देखता है, इज अ फौजी ऑफिसर, कैप्टन प्रभुनाथ सिंह. वो इंडिया के जितने गूगल के ऑफिसेज हैं, एसेट्स हैं, एंड इट इज नॉट जस्ट ऑफिसेज, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ अदर एसेट्स, देयर की फंक्शनरीज आर आल्सो एसेट्स फॉर गूगल. उन सब की सिक्योरिटी, उन सब का डेली मेक श्योर करना कि गूगल के जो इंस्टॉलेशन से उन्हें किसी तरह का थ्रेट ना हो, all that is handled by that officer, and I believe that that officer would be very well paid by G4S for the task he is performing. और ये तो शुरुआत है, that he is comparatively young in his 40s. अभी वो और तरक्की करेंगे तो बहुत आगे तक जाते जाएंगे. So I would say that all these five roles are your strengths. Play on your strengths and make sure that you are able to, not just make sure, you will be able to develop very robust, strong careers in times to come.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind.